There we go. All right. Oh, look at futures go. That just happened. It must have just happened. Yeah. Jesus.
Well, good, because I've got Tesla puts for this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm actually I gotta do something here. Hold on. I got a short on, but I didn't think it was gonna drop that quick. That's fucking that's lovely. Hold on, let me go to this.
That's just from tonight?
Huh?
That's just from tonight after hours?
What do you mean?
The drop.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, I'm talking about this here where it just dropped.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 5-minute. So we closed. This is ES, but we closed on this candle here. So, or this candle, sorry. The end of this candle we closed. So yeah, we actually when my kids just fell asleep fucking late as shit tonight, but I got in short up here because I figured it was going to come up and retest this hourly on ES. So that just dropped hard and it's down to the it's actually touching the hourly demand. So
Okay.
give
All
me a
right. So
second.
I have a question for you. How can you
Yeah.
tell without different colors what is an hourly demand and what is not?
What do you mean without colors?
Well-
It's all about the candle. This is hourly demand because it's a bearish candle.
Okay.
So you look at where price is at, right? Let's go to we can do it on this, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say price is here, right? Whatever at 4, at the end of 3 p.m. here, right? We close. So like, no, let's do this. Let's go back to this so it doesn't fuck up my my trade. But let's do this. I'll put it in replay and show you guys because this is definitely key. So let's say right here, this is what we see, right? Fucking, prices up here. This is where this candle closes, right? We're right at at this point, this candle just closed. So this is the 1 p.m. So this would be right before 2 p.m., right? So if we're looking for hourly demand, right? We want to look for, bearish candles below price. Okay. So what we do is we look to the left. Okay. This is where current price is at. We look to the left, we come down and we see, okay, there's a bearish candle here. There's a bearish candle here and here, right? And there's a bearish candle here. So what I like to do, the best way to do this is to say, okay, I know that this is the lowest candle, right? Without touching another one. Obviously you come down here and there's another one, right? But for current price, and we'll do all of them. The thing that I do is I start here, right? So I see the body of this bearish candle. I snap lines on it, put this blue, rectangle in, and boom, there's an hourly demand, right? Now I know this candle, all right, that's an hour, that's a big bearish candle, and it closes lower than this one. So this doesn't count, this big guy. But look what this one does. It comes down and it wicks right to here, right? I mean, it literally comes down and tests this hourly demand here and caught a bounce, right? And that happened this morning. That confirms this as a pretty strong demand. Now, if you just look at this, you can kind of tell it's a strong demand because it's there's nothing underneath it, right? There's really not a lot going on, until you get way down here. So anyways, I have, we snap lines to this one. Okay. We come over because remember what we're doing is we're looking consecutively back in time. So we have current prices here and we want to look for bearish candles that are underpriced, but going back consecutively in time. And that's why you can't just pick like this bearish candle, like it doesn't make sense, right? You come back and you go doom, 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 and you say, okay, this is underpriced. And it doesn't wick into, right? Like it doesn't wick down into the body of another bearish candle, right? Because when you move to the left, what you hit is this bullish candle. Okay, so once you hit a candle, like that's it. If it was a bearish candle, then we could say, okay, this doesn't count, but this one does count. So at the time, right? Obviously, these charts aren't updated 100%. And we're going to spend more time on this in the coming weeks here because this is definitely something we're going to do practice charts and all sorts of shit. So, so I would put, lines on it like that, right? And I would say, okay, I know that's hourly demand too, right? And then, like I said, I would come down here, I would see this one's just sitting by itself. I would snap hourly demand onto this like I did. And the only one left in between that's lower than the price, right? You can't, like, this doesn't work because right after it, we have a bearish candle that closed, below it, right? Even though it's a very tiny, this is a tiny little doji, the reality is the close is still lower than the close of this candle. So this wouldn't be demand, right? Because you always are looking for like the lowest price, but it doesn't even matter because look what it does. It wicks down into this demand. So when you get a candle that wicks down to the body, into the body, or even through it, even if it pushes down through it, really doesn't matter. The point is that this is not demand at all, right? Price, once this zone was created, price traded up, right? You got a pullback, you got the bounce, and then we opened here, we pushed up, and we pushed, and then got sucked down, and it touched this demand, and buyers bought it back up again. This, I would consider this a test of the demand as well, even though you guys can see my crosshairs here, even though the low of that was only 38.96.1, right? You can just say 38.96. So even though this candle only closed at 38.96 and not all the way down to here, you got to remember there's buyers, when you have a strong demand zone like this, there's buyers, above it and below it. So that's why you can see price wick through this. But what we're using as our signals, what we want to see is a close. We want to see the candle close, and that gives us a signal. So anyways, I don't know, hopefully it's all about the bearish candle. Like if you're looking for demand, it's got to be a bearish candle. So I have these, right? And let's go down one more. So now if I look and I assume, okay, this is the lowest demand, I look over to the left, right? I look below price because now I'm looking for a demand that's lower than this one. And I trace down and I say, okay, here's a bearish candle. And I can see that, okay, where it wicks down to, right, is right. I'm trying not to have my crosshairs on it so you guys can see it, but where it wicks down to is parallel with this, right? It's if I look across, I know that, okay, it's hitting this candle. This is, it's not bumping into a bearish candle anywhere, right? So this makes this its own demand zone. So then we can take this, and do this if we want to. And it's the same for supply, right? The reason that like this candle exists here is because once price traded, oh shit, what is going on with this? Keep getting this dock popping up on Windows. Anyways, this zone here, a couple of things going on here. The reason this zone is relevant, all right, and actually there was another one back here, but is because once price dropped down, if let's say price is here, well, I mean there's other zones in here that I've already deleted, so I don't want to confuse the situation. The reason I left this one on, and I probably should have left this, I think, except it gets in the way of, yeah, I think it fucks with this one, which is why I got rid of it. But there's a supply zone here, right? So we could look for a retest here. This one I probably need to just get rid of, but we'll go over supply on a new candle because I don't want to confuse the shit out of this. This one needs to disappear. This has been invalidated. It's gone. It's also sitting inside of an OG zone, so I just don't care. I don't need it in there. All right, so let's say this is what I've charted out, right? Like price is here, it's come down. We've wicked down to this level, we bounced, we pulled back up. On an hourly basis, I'm looking for hourly supply zone or demand zones, right? So I know that this is a demand zone, right? I know that this one looks like it might be because it's the next one lower, but it's not, because again, it wicks down, it touches the body of this guy, which means that this is the demand zone. And then obviously we have this one here. So then if we play this out, so right there, two things happened here, and this happens so fast, it's almost
Hey Alex, can I ask you a question real quick?
Not gonna do it. Yeah, go ahead.
So how far you go back when you are doing this 1 hour zones?
As far as what's realistic, right? Like if I think price is coming down, again, it goes all the way back to here technically. Because I mean, if price is falling, right, I want to know where demand zones are. So like I know that the reason we bounced here right, multiple times is because of this demand zone. You see that, right? So like this, so I already have this demand zone. We never got a close below it. We never got an hourly close below it. We actually never got an hourly close inside of it, right? Once we pushed back up. And that's why, like, every time we tested this was a great spot to buy. Like, this was key in last week, right? Or last Friday, fucking, it was, let's see. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was, I guess that first test was Friday. I don't know. Anyways, this was a good zone to play at the end of the, no, yeah, it was all last week. God.
Okay, so I think I understand what he was asking, because when I first
but I
started
mean,
doing the
how far
zones,
down do you go though, right?
right?
Go
Well,
ahead.
how far
Go
back
ahead.
do you go?
Well,
How
but
many
that's
days? Let's
that's
just
what I'm
be
saying
clear.
though.
Right.
But listen, you're looking for demand zones under price that you're going to bounce from, right? So it's like, how far back do you go? You can go as far back as you want, as you think price is going to go down. The thing is, do you really need to go, like, if price hadn't already been down here, right? Like when you want to anticipate ahead of time. So like at this point, when price was, when this is where price was at in the middle of December, and we were crashing down hard. Like, I wanted to know that there was hourly demand here, right? Like this big blue square, because at the time, all we knew was price was here. Like, you got to imagine that this is what the chart looked like, right? Like, imagine that's what the chart looks like. Like, price is bouncing here and you're looking for hourly demand. You're going to look back over here to the left and there's this big green candle. So it's like, okay, now I start looking at these I'm looking for bearish candles below price, right? Below current price. So that's why I had these. And then obviously I anticipated a little bit, mainly because I was doing the charts for everybody. So I found this one as well. And then this guy down here. Now we haven't gone down there yet. So they just sit on the chart and just wait.
So Alex, can you explain one thing? If we go back to where we were, like right in this area right here.
Yeah.
Explain why we wouldn't use any demand zones on these up and downs here.
What do you mean up and downs?
In the current situation, because they've been invalidated because we've already pushed through those areas, correct?
Well, what do you mean?
No, not
Like,
over here, not where you are, back further. Yeah.
right here?
And no, not down there either, in the middle.
Yeah, no, none of this matters because we pushed back up. We've already
Right.
cleared it. Yeah, that's
We've
why
already
there's
cleared it,
nothing there.
yes.
Yeah, there's no, and there aren't any demand. I mean, the demand zones here, yeah, you wouldn't, like, I don't know where one would be at. Let's say, I don't know, let's say this is a demand zone, this bearish candle here. Like, you're not going to have that on your chart anymore because we already cleared it right here on this candle, right? When it came down and closed below. So as soon as you get a close below it, it's technically invalidated. The only thing that we leave it on the chart for is a retest. You know what I'm saying? Like, when price comes back up, it'll treat it, and no longer as demand, it'll treat it as supply. Upon like the first time that price comes back up and tests it. So like what happens, so that's what I was going to show you guys here. Like this here, when we got this close, okay, under at 2, this was what was this? So at the end, basically 3 p.m., right? At 2:59, we closed right here, right at the bottom of this bearish candle. We opened this at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and we proceeded to push back up. Right. This, now, granted, it didn't touch the 3906 spot 8, but it got within, what was the high of that candle? The high is 3906 even, right? So you're talking 80 cents away. This is considered a retest. So once you get this bearish close under your hourly demand, we want a retest, and that's our entry. So that's where you re-enter puts again. Okay, because the risk to reward is there. So that, like, you got the hourly close, right? And again, that's what gives us the signal. If this is demand, you expect buyers to hold it, right? So it doesn't matter if it wicks down through it. Buyers buy it back up. If this bearish candle here, right, this 2 p.m. candle closed back up, let's say here at 3909, okay, right where my cursor is. If it closed back up in here, then it wouldn't be a bearish signal, right? It wouldn't be a bullish signal. It just says that we're still sitting. We don't know which direction it's going to go, but we do know that buyers are holding it. So instead, what happened is we got, obviously price was powerful enough to push back, push down, and it closed underneath this demand zone. So, what that says is, okay, we have a bearish signal, but you don't want to just buy right here. What you want to do is wait for, you wait for that. You have to wait for the close to get the signal. So that means immediately this candle opens up and then price started to push back up. And that's pretty normal because this is the retest, right? This is the retest of the old zone that we broke. Obviously it didn't touch it exactly. Sometimes it touches it. Sometimes it goes all the way up to the top of the zone. We've seen, you kind of got to gauge that on the smaller time frames for the entry, but you do want to know where this is. So it's not like, as soon as this closes, I'm not like deleting this immediately, right? I want to see, I don't know. You're just not going to act that fast because what you want to be looking for is your entries at that point. You want to be dealing with your orders. So anyways, that's the retest. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. So did you draw that today? The zone where is that on your cursor currently?
On this one? Yeah, we had this. Yeah, this was here today. This was on the chart today for sure. And then this one was on the chart. I think after it blew through it, I made it that I had it, I had it as a dashed line without the actually, I don't know if it was that one. It was probably this one, I think. Because what you'll see me do. So let's say we're at this point, right? We've taken the short here, or we haven't, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Price is pushing down. And this is the next demand zone, right? So the thing is, when you're taking a short here, you want to take your entry here, okay? And when you're looking at puts, the idea is that you're looking at, let's say you're looking at the 3900s, right? Or even the, whatever, 30, it doesn't matter. You can say whatever one you're looking at, but let's just say it's 3900s, right? Well, you're watching that price, the premium price, right? So when it closes here, you're going to want to set an order that's cheaper, right? Because you want to kind of, and as you get experience, you'll get an idea of kind of where price will push back up to. But you can also watch it on the smaller time frames, and you're watching price push up. So let's check that out. So at 3 o'clock, right? What does that look like on the 5 minute? Well, it looks like this, right? So let's see, 255. This is where it closed, right? So then 3 o'clock opens here. Here, I'll blow this up a little bit. Yeah, 3 o'clock opens at this bullish candle, right? Price probably pushed down a little bit, pushed up, okay? And then closed here. So closed a little bit bullish. When it pushes up like that and you see it start to fade in real time, because again, this is a 5 minute candle. So in real time, you'll see it push up, kind of fluctuate. Sometimes it'll push up and wick right back down. The thing is, you'll get an idea of what the premium price is, and you're either going to click and fill in right there, or you're going to have a fill price on that contract, that's cheaper, basically a limit buy, right? And if you didn't get it here, the nice thing with this, with this price action is that we closed the candle here, then we opened this one, right? And it probably dropped down first, but it did end up pushing back up and right to that same spot. So you should have gotten this would have been this is a relatively easy spot to get a fill on puts, and then and then we closed the candle here, and then obviously it fell down at that point. So it's and again, this is why you take profits, because it's coming down, right? We closed this 5 minute candle, opened this one, pushed down, got pretty close to the demand zone, and again, there's always buyers. There's going to be buyers above this. That's why you take profits before you hit the zones, especially at least on scalping, right? Like if you're doing intraday 0 DTEs. Because then what did it do? It retraced all the way back up. And I think that this is what Phil and I were talking about at the time. We actually bought puts off of this because this was five, again, this turned into 5 minute supply. So that's why I know we bought puts off of it here. And then obviously it played out. So, but going back to the hourly, so I don't lose the train of thought here. The bottom line is that this is your retest. Okay. And it's even within, if you look at the wick, like the wick on this bearish candle, right? The wick comes down to where my cursor is here. And that's not where we get the signal. So I don't even care about having it marked, but I can see that on a chart that like we've pushed back up, basically to this like range, this area. If you considered it almost like a cloud, like this is the hard, this is the hard ground or the ship, right? And then you have this like bubble around it that goes out to the wicks. You know, like that's kind of like you're going to find buyers and then which switch to sellers. Once you get this hourly close through demand, this switches and will act as supply. This will act as resistance. And that's why the signals work, right? When you get this hourly close, so you catch the short and it plays it down through, right? Now we get this next hourly close, and look what happens. We close just underneath the 38.92 spot 5. Right now, granted, this is at 4 p.m. So at this point, you know, if you're doing options, like you're out, right? We were done at this point. I was out even before this. You know, but if you're playing futures, right? Let's say you're still trading futures on this. And even if you can, you know, what we're looking for is the signal, right? How do we get the signal from this? Well, we just got an hourly close below the bottom of the demand zone, right? This is support. This is hourly support at the bottom here. So we just got to close below it again. So what would we look for? We'd look for a retest, and we're looking for, you know, more downside. So, you know, the next candle, boom, right? No, hold on. Let's let it play out. Yeah. So the next candle fucking, you know, pushes down, pulls back up, right? And granted, this is now, you know, 5 p.m. when this closes here, but it did still close bearish. So still giving us a bearish signal. And when we opened up, you know, at 6 o'clock, because remember, futures are closed from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. So at 6 p.m. we opened here. We got it again. We got this little retest. You guys see that? Like it tried retesting the, you know, this old demand. It acted as resistance and it broke down. Now it pushed down. There were some buyers here, bought it back up. It continues to be, you know, we continue to be bearish, you know, and then we get that. So that's it. There's 3 candles there that just happened. We got this big move down, pulled back up, right? We had this bullish candle that kind of popped us back up. And then this is where we're at right now. We just closed right at 10 p.m. We came down and what did we hit? Right, we hit this demand here. So, you know, again, we hit the demand, got it bought back up. That means that I filled on my target. I stopped out on my my futures. But now it's okay. So now let's say we're looking at this, right? And ignore these pink zones. You know, just look at the blue, right? This is hourly. We're looking at it as the hourly time frame. Because we dipped down, we touched the demand and we pulled back up. This actually gives us a bit of a bearish or a bullish signal here, right? So it says that, hey, we tested demand, but the buyers were strong enough that it pushed us back up and we closed that hourly candle above the demand zone. So now you could say if you were bullish, if you said, hey, we've had enough of a drop, you know, you know, and I'm not saying you're bullish to head to the moon, but let's say you're bullish just even back up to this 38.92. You know, what you'd want to see is a push down, you know, at least into this 38.79 level here. And then if not all the way to the hourly demand, and then that would be your entry. That would be your bullish entry. Because again, like this tests it, pulls back up, right? Gets a close above. And then the retest of the zone, but it's a bullish retest, is what we're looking for here. Because that gives us the best entry, right? If you're not trying to just buy right here thinking, hey, it's gonna go up. You want to wait for it to come back down, test the zone again, and that way your risk to reward, you know, your stop could be just down slightly inside of the zone, right? You know, if you're looking for a bigger position or a little bit longer term move, you know, let's say you're looking for a move overnight and you're thinking, hey, it's going to pop back up, then your stop could be all the way, you know, underneath the zone somewhere. So does that make sense? Like that's what we're looking for here as far as demand zones go. Like these are all demand zones. And they're being confirmed. Like as soon as we break underneath this demand zone, and I say break underneath when we get a close underneath, then we have what? We have two hourly candles that tested it and got rejected, right? Tested it again, tested it from the bottom again, got rejected, closed here, and then obviously we've kind of fallen down, you know, from there. So it's I mean, even this candle came back up into this area, into this like range, right? Even though, like I say, I don't use the wicks because they give you false signals. You want to build the zones off the body of the candle. It's very key. But know where, you know, you can know where your wicks are. And, you know, and if you're not, if you want to do something like this, I mean, it's not a big deal, right? You could throw a blue dotted line in or something. Right. So that's where the bottom of that wick is. And you can see how even these candles came up and retested that, right, multiple times. So you got to consider that as like, this is still the demand zone area that we're working within. And this was just, but we got the bearish signal. So we already knew entries were good, good to go, after, what was that? At 4 p.m., right? So as this 3 p.m. candle closed, 4 p.m. open, that would have been our first entry. And you could have played multiple entries here, multiple, pushes, whatever, if you're playing futures, right? But it's the same during the day. So, but I mean, does that make sense? Feel free to keep asking questions, guys. I'm happy to, I want this to drive home to you. I want you to drive this home, and we will do more practice sessions. I will say I've talked to a bunch of people about this that do understand the zones and whatnot. The biggest thing is just practicing it and getting used to what zones are right and what zones aren't, and follow the signal, because what happens is it works enough, right? It will work enough times to where it'll click. There's something, if it's not making sense intuitively to you, why does this work, or why is that right or wrong? It's more about just doing it, because what you'll see is that it works time and time again. And that's what really solidifies the strategy in your head, to be able to do this in real time.
So I can tell you what I'm struggling with. And it could be that I was gone for 2 weeks, so I didn't play with the zones. I struggle with the time frames. So it's I'll start off with the 15-minute, and then I'll do the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the day, and I kind of stop at the day. Well, not kind of, I do stop at the day. What I struggle with is sometimes I find that my 4 hours overlap my 1 hour, or I have a 15-minute zone inside of the daily. And
Always, yeah.
yes,
Always.
so it messes with me and makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong. So I just want confirmation on the proper way to build the zones. I know that you have taught me to build the zones from the smaller time frame up, right?
Well, yeah, but it's all about it's all about getting the signal, right? So if the thing is, you can't, if you're looking at an hourly chart, all the other time frames don't matter, right? All
Okay.
you care about when you're looking at an hourly chart is the hourly supply and demand, right? And you're waiting for that hourly candle to close. The reason that the smaller time frames are the thing is, this is how I always this is how I use it. We get this hourly close here, okay? Or let's just use this one, realistic. We get this hourly close here at 2:59, okay? So I know that we just closed under the daily or the hourly demand here, and I know that I'm looking for a retest of this 39.06 spot 8. But the thing is, I'm not taking an entry on an hourly, right? I jump down to the 5-minute, and I come back over here, right? And I'm looking and I say, okay, I've already had, right? I mean, they're deleted now, but let's just do this real quick. And here, I'll hold on. So I've already, before price got here, right? I'm looking for my 5-minute demand zone. Well, and I see that this, this candle here is sitting obviously lower, sitting underneath, it's the bottom, right? I mean, there are other ones up here that we dealt with on the way up, but I'm not going to go through all those the second. It'll just confuse us. But this is the demand zone on the 5-minute. So I know that I already know that I got the hourly signal, right? So that's the whole thing, is you're not trying to mix the two. They're all fractal. They're going to be inside of each other, but you can only get the signal from you can only get a signal using the hourly supply and demand zones when you get an hourly close, when you get an hourly candle to close, right? So we just got this one, but if I'm looking for re-entries, I can say, okay, I also know that on a 5-minute closing basis, right? On a 5-minute time frame, I had this 5-minute demand here, right? Well, this is a 5-minute candle. It's also the hourly candle that closed, right? But I know that, okay, it closed bearish as well. So when I'm looking for a retest, all right, I'm also know that, okay, I know that it's going to come up and try to retest this 39.06 spot 8, which is the bottom of this blue zone. But I do know that there's the 5-minute, the 5-minute demand also got beat, and it's probably going to retest that as well. So when I see price push up into the 5-minute, the old 5-minute demand, yeah, it didn't come all the way up and touch this 3906 spot 8. But again, I know that on a, I can wait and see, okay, look, it tested this. Because I mean, here's the thing. How do you know it's not going to come all the way back up to say 3910, 3911, right? I know that it's going to retest this old demand zone. And the thing is, it can test all, I mean, price can move all the way up through and still end up, playing out the correct way. But how do you get your good entry? Well, you look at the 5-minute time frame and I say, okay, I had this 5-minute demand here. I'm looking for a retest of that because we had the close below. And look what happens. We retest that and it pulls back and it closes underneath. Okay, so that tells me that this tells me that price is stopping here. And that's why I have multiple time frames. The 5-minute zones, you wouldn't be able to get this signal, right? You wouldn't be able to say, okay, this closed back here. And then when it tested it again, this is your definite entry right here, right? If at 305, maybe this took till 307 or something to push up to here. But you know what I'm saying? This 305 candle, this is your entry when it pushes back up into this supply or this demand zone. If you were on an hourly candle, you wouldn't be able to see that, hey, price did push up and it's pulling back, right? And then we got another 5-minute close, below the zone. It's verifying it on smaller and smaller time frames. But you just want to, obviously, the larger the time frame, the better the signal, right? The more it's going to hold out. And then you work, then use the smaller time frames for your entries, because I can wait 5 minutes for an entry, but I'm not trying to wait for another hourly close to get an entry. Does that make sense? I hope that, if you guys were waiting for an hourly close right here, okay, okay, I'm looking for a retest of this zone. If you didn't have this 5-minute demand here in pink, that obviously you can't see on the hourly candle, when you look for a retest, you would either hope that it, you would take it at 3906 or closely to it, right? As you get good, you can kind of get, you might take it early here, but if price, there's no reason that price can't push all the way back up and retest 3910, which is the top of this. Okay, and then drop off. But the thing is, if you took your end, you want to have the most precise entry possible. So how do I gain the confidence, right, through the charts, that this is the proper place to take an entry, right? I do that by using the smaller time frames.
So in essence, the 1 hour is, I guess you would say, the most important, and then the other ones help pull everything together.
I mean, it's not, I mean, look, there are other time frames that are, I mean, you can use bigger time frames, but the thing is, in a single trading day, if you're trying to use the 4 hour, you don't get that many, there aren't that many zones to get a signal from. Same with the daily, right? If you're waiting for a daily zone to get tested and then wait for that daily close to get the signal, you may be waiting 2 weeks to get a play. So because we day trade, the hourly is a good medium, right? The hourly, we have multiple hourly closes throughout the trading day and overnight, so we can get signals overnight. But mainly throughout the trading day. I mean, it's a 7.5 hour trading day. So you get, at least you get, multiple hourly closes. So that's why it's not that it's the most important. It's just, it's a good balance, right? It's a good balance of give or take. I want the largest time frame possible to get the signal. That's why I look at the daily closes and I'm like, hey, there's a daily, we just broke through and got a close below the daily demand. That's something I take note of. It's just, I can't rely on that to happen every day. And it wouldn't, obviously, right? So the hourly is a good mix because we have multiple zones. If you had, if we weren't using the hourly, we wouldn't have, we wouldn't have these opportunities here to get a signal, right? If you're using the 4 hour, this chart's going to get fucking really busy here soon, but hold on. I think I got to update it, what's what. But anyways, if you're using the 4 hour, yeah, it's not going to work. Anyways,
Well, no, put that back on real quick.
Well, these aren't
4 hour?
updated. Yeah, it's not
Okay.
going to matter. These
But the
aren't
4
updated.
hour, see, when you put that on and you have the 4 hour, the 1 hour, the day, and the 15-minute, my screen gets a little clustered.
Yeah, that's why you turn them off. That's why you got to categorize them and turn them off. I mean, look, I can look at this and say, okay, this is the 4 hour supply right here. Okay, this was, I mean, this is where price pushed up to, right? It pushed up to this area. or it never actually pushed to this area, but this would be the, I know that as price pushed up, like this crazy shit, right? I know that this was the last supply zone. I can just tell by looking, there's no other green candles here, right? You're looking for, you gotta always imagine that, like, if I snap a line there, right? That was our 4-hour supply, or 4-hour resistance, I should say, top of the supply zone. And we beat that at 5 p.m. On the 5 p.m. candle on Sunday, right? So when that Sunday candle opened, when we got the 4-hour close, that's where we got the bullish signal. That's great and all for futures playing it up. But now, the only thing you can say now is that this candle here, right, the one, this would have been 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., right? We closed back underneath that. So the retest is out, and this is, to me, this is just useless. That's why it's good to have like your 4-hour. But again, if nothing's happening, like if price isn't anywhere near it, I just turn them off. Like, it's not worth having on your screen. And that's the best way to handle that. And so even with the 4-hour here, and again, like when we have the 4-hour candles, these are not, like, we're not using these blue zones anymore, right? There's nothing as far as, there's really no signal on this on the 4-hour. And that's been kind of common. It's not, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. But like, if you were just looking at the 4-hour, you'd say, well, why did we come up to here and then dump, right? Like, it just doesn't, like, why did that happen? There's some reasons you could say, hey, I don't know. That's why I combine multiple things, right? I have the white zones, like, I just know that those stand out like sore thumb, or to me at least, and look where we pushed right up to it and pulled back. It's one of the reasons that I was short biased today after we pushed up. That's why it played out, it's one of the things that played out so well. But with that said, and same reason I have this green zone, because I want to know that, like, hey, from a weekly standpoint, right? I know that this is weekly supply, and that we have had multiple weekly closes underneath, right? Like, just ignore all of it except for this green. Like, these are weekly candles. I know that once we close this, we got that weekly close. This was back in the beginning of December. We pushed way up, but ended up closing the week way down here, right? And then we had these 3 weeks of just shit chop that, yeah, we pushed up. But again, the reason I wasn't super bear or bullish leaving, the end of last week is because we never, like, yeah, we pushed up and closed up here, but we never did anything. We never got anywhere, right? We hadn't tested this supply. Like, I know that this is supply because, looking where price is. And again, you can tell even with this price movement here, look where we closed, the highest we got, right? After we formed the zone, the highest, we got on a closing basis is still underneath the weekly resistance, which is the top of the zone. So that's why it's not surprising when we closed this week here. It wasn't surprising at all to be bullish or to be bearish going into this week here. So, and again, this is the December 5th, week of December 5th. So, this is a longer term thing, but I do want to know kind of where this is at. Normally I wouldn't have it this green. It just is what it is. But the thing is, when we like to see us test this kind of, to start to try to get into the zone and then fall back. The week is nowhere near closed. So again, you can't get a signal off of this, but it is very reassuring to know that, hey, I'm coming into an area where there's some long-term selling going on, right? Like, there have been sellers in this zone for a while. And so it's just one more thing to have on the chart. Same with the daily supply. I think I have the dailies turned off on this right now, and it does get crazy. And that's why definitely if you're using TradingView, you want to use these groups, right, where you can turn them on and off. Especially the 4-hour, the 1 hour, the weekly, because I can turn the weekly off and it just disappears, right? So let's say I don't want the weekly on. Let's say I know that that's, was it 39.31, right? So I just know in my head that, hey, 39.31, which is about right, here, right? So it's just kind of in the middle here. That's where my weekly is. So I can just leave it off. Obviously, if I wanted to turn off all the white zones, I have those set up, right? So I can just see like the normal price action. But again, the white zones have been spot on for for any type of swing trade. Or I shouldn't even say that. It's just if you wait for the white zones, and just take your short, take your reversal, because it's not just the short, it's the bounce too, right? I mean, we came down, we hit this white zone. I mean, even though the hourly demand is here, if you just played the zone here, this white zone, you made out pretty well all last week. So, but hopefully that answers the question on the hourly demand, because the demand has nothing to do with like, it's all about the candles specifically, right? You're looking for bearish candles that, are below, they're below current price, and you're working your way down, right? So you see one here. I mean, and again, it doesn't wick into, another bearish candle, another red candle. So that means that this is legit. So you snap 2 lines on it, and then you're coming down to the next one. So I look at this one down here, right? And we can, well, let me turn this off. So let's look at this here. This is a little bit tougher, right? So you have this big ass candle. Number one, it's really big. But again, let's see where it goes. It wicks down to where my cursor is right now. So I look to the left and I say, all right, this, it wicks into the body of this candle, right? Which it looks like, lines up pretty good with this one here. But again, what is all of this bouncing off of here, right? And I know that this candle does not actually touch this hourly demand, but I mean, immediately the one after, it's a bullish candle, does come down and touch it. So what that tells me is that all of these are part of this demand zone, right? When I look at that, that's exactly what I see. And it's, you can see like it touched it here. This one didn't quite touch it, but again, it's getting into this, it's coming down to where this hourly demand is based off this bearish candle here. And it's getting bought up, like buyers are stepping in. So I look at this and I say, okay, these are all like all these candles, like this one here on January 6th, all of these bearish candles are connected to this demand zone. This one here, it's questionable, but because it's so big, what I plan on, what I'm doing, or the way I would handle it, I'm going to handle it, is to snap a line, and say, okay, that's still going to be a demand zone of its own, right? Like this candle, I'm going to treat as its own kind of in an island. It's so big that I would, I'll use a signal off of this level. Right now, it's debatable if you say, okay, well, that's pretty close to this zone down here. You could decide not to do it, but again, it's such a large spot. Like I would rather have this marked as an hourly level, so that as I'm trading on the 5 minute or the 15, let's say tomorrow, let's say we drop tomorrow, right? Obviously we have to make it through some of these spots, but sorry, there's motorcycles ripping down the highway, I think.
Well, that definitely helped me. It helped me a lot.
Yeah, no, good. I mean, that's the question. And like I said, now that I mean, I know we've had the holidays and shit, whatever, but I've been, now that I know my daughter, like I thought we thought she was going to be going to school this week. That was the plan. Like we let them know last week at the beginning of the week, and for some reason they couldn't do the visit last Friday. And start her this Monday. So now it's like she's visiting. They have to do a visit first, right? So she's visiting this Friday and starting next Monday. But as of next Monday, like I'll have a much cleaner schedule, not so much shit going on, and I plan to do more, like put out practice stuff during the day, in the middle of the day, like find charts that we can practice on, whether it's just blank tickers that you can find, that what the name of them are. The other thing that I've done in the past, so like the guy that kind of turned, he taught us how to do these white zones. I mean, I do them a little bit differently, but again, same, very similar. He's the one who turned me on to he taught me supply and demand, or at least turned me on to it, I should say. I don't know if he's got a good understanding of it or not, but he used to practice charts, right? Where we would just do a blank chart. You didn't know what the ticker symbol was. And part of that reason is because we had charted so many different tickers. The idea was to not like cheat, right? But you get the real candles, and then it's like, okay, find zones on it. Well, I don't, again, we'll do some of that as time goes on with the white zones, if you guys want to, but I'd really rather have everybody locked tight on on the supply and demand zone. So we're going to practice those, and then you can turn them, people can post them in the zones practice channel, and then we'll go over them all, sometime during the week. And it'll be a separate, I plan on making that like a separate class than like the Tuesday, Thursday. Maybe it'll be on the weekend. I don't know. We'll have to see how it works out, but we could do it a lot quicker than most of these classes go, because it would be, focused on one thing. So.
Hey, SJ or anyone, if you guys interested to just, we can come up as a team without Alex, and just kind of practice that zones. Even Alex give us an assignment, but if you guys all wants to do it, I am all up for it whenever you guys all are free.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And I know Tommy, Tommy's up for it as well. SJ, I know you're around. I'm around. I mean, guys, I'm down to do this stuff. If you guys want to get together, even if you guys kind of say, hey, I want to get we can always use the trading pit, right? But obviously we can use Zoom too. And if you guys ever wanted to just use Zoom, I can open it up for you guys if I'm not available. The main thing is right after market close, the kids are home. But normally, even on a night, if it was like, hey, we could do this for like 45 minutes, like, all right, even if I just was there for like a half hour, 45 minutes, right? And then you guys continued afterwards, like, I'm happy to hop in and do that shit too. Like on a night that we're not doing a normal class. I mean, I'm normally in and out. It's just a matter of whether the stuff right after, I don't know. Normally I would sit and hang out after market close, but the kids are home like right fucking away. So it's like not much I can do about that. But
I will tell you this. I like doing these classes during the week after a day of trading, because the trading is fresh in my mind. I know we were doing them on Sunday, and it was great, but I like the Monday classes.
Yeah. No, good. Well, the plan is to do Tuesday and Thursday, and then one on the weekend, but not Sunday night, right? The one on the weekend probably going to be Saturday during Saturday morning. I don't know. I'll probably keep it to where we'll see what schedules work best and whatnot, because the weekends get tough, and maybe it'll be towards the evening. But I know, it's never perfect for everybody, and then there are sometimes some weekends where we're doing stuff. Where I'm just not around, just not home. But we could also do something like Wednesday night. We could do some of the charting or whatnot. I'd rather do that instead of Sunday, because honestly, Sunday is like it used to. If you guys were like giving me a list of different companies that you wanted charted right before the week started, like that would be a different story. But we really just don't have that demand. Like and again, even if there's a couple charts here and there, it's something that I can do. Like it doesn't require a whole Sunday, Sunday stream, I guess. And yeah, and exactly what you said, SJ. Like the thing is, like the price action changes. The only thing that we're not doing is the the expected moves you guys should take care of, because normally those don't get posted by Jacob until like Sunday afternoon. But again, you guys should be able to, if anybody has any questions on that, just feel free to ask. There's some videos.
The expected moves are great, and they help out a lot. I don't chart every single one that he puts up. I just chart the ones that I know I'm going to be trading. And, I used to be on a big Apple kick, but Apple doesn't move enough for me to make any money. So right now, Tesla, Netflix, and Meta are the ones that move enough for me to be able to make some money. I'm sorry, and Microsoft too. So those are the ones that I do the expected moves on. And of course, the SPX. That was something I noticed. And I don't know why I never noticed before, but when I put in the expected moves for the SPX Owanda, it rounds it to a
10th,
like a 10.
Yeah, 10th. Yeah, because it's a 10th of a decimal. Yeah, that's because that's all it goes down to. And the ES only goes to it's only 0.25, 0.50, 0.5, 0.75, and then 1.
Okay.
Because that's a tick, right? So like that's why. So the ES is like that. The Owanda is down to like tenths, right? So you do have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, but right, it's not. There's nothing more. But honestly, you could round it to the nearest dollar and be perfectly fine. Just because of the price of it, especially. I mean, it's high enough. I mean, you're talking that 50 cents or 60 cents isn't going to make a big difference. And the biggest thing with the EMs, of course, is to know just where, you kind of want to know where they are and when you're getting down near them ahead of time so that you can plan accordingly, right? So you can either expect a bounce or you can take profits, right? Or if you're going to take an entry off of it. I mean, last week, Apple was a perfect example. Like we shot down, I'm pretty sure it was last week, we shot down in the beginning of the week, Apple came rocking down, tagged the expected move for the week, and then proceeded to hold above it the whole week, right? Now it stayed very close to it towards the end, and other things kind of did their thing, but it's, it was a sign that, hey, that's, if Apple's bottomed out already, Monday, Tuesday, like the rest of the week, you don't necessarily you can't really expect a huge break of the range per se, right? It's just something. So like I can show you on the chart even. So last week, right, it was right down here. Actually, yeah, I haven't updated them. So, or no, I did update them. Yeah. But last week the expected move was hold on, I'll tell you. Apple was 124.53. So very close to what it is now, but 124.53 was literally right here. So right where my ticker is, right? Or right where my crosshairs is. Sorry, 53, right there. So you can see how on an hourly closing basis, right? And this was Tuesday. Yeah. So Tuesday came down, slammed, came down, tried to break through it multiple times. And this is why I wait for an hourly close to really get a signal off those. Because if you look at the 5-minute, it looks like it cleared it multiple times. It was under it, it was going to stay under it. But the reality is on an hourly closing basis, it sat here and bounced around. And again, like this, we didn't have this hourly demand here at the time. But as soon as we had, the 1 p.m. candle close, we knew that this was hourly demand now. That's why, and it still is. So that's, I hope maybe this answers some of the question too about how far back you go. Like this is still demand until it gets invalidated, right? So like this is still demand to me right now. Again, this is hourly demand too. And I know that because of the way this candle wicked down, it didn't quite touch it, right? And yeah, it's in the sphere of this, but again, it's high enough up that I would call this, this looks a lot like looks a lot like SPX, right? It's you're gonna see the fractals in this, but so we call that hourly demand. And then if we go to current price, I'm sorry, which is right there. Yeah. Fucking la la land here. We're nowhere near it. But if we start coming down with Apple, we do have, so if you look at where we're at here, okay, this line was, at the time, this was an hourly zone, a level to kind of watch for. And we closed underneath it at the end of the day today, right? And look what the remaining, like, even though we had this big wick up, which was probably just orders being closed, because we got this bearish close below an hourly support, even though this candle is a tiny little doji, I don't know if you guys can see it, it still counts, right? It's still a bearish candle. So we got the close underneath anyways, and here we have multiple hours in aftermarket dropping down. Now it's aftermarket, so whatever, but so you could say that's invalidated, right? And now the next one, if you look, the next bearish candle that's lower, below price, that's the lowest, right, is going to be this guy. And again, if you look where the close is, I come to the left and I say, okay, it's not in the body of this candle. Even though it bumps into the wick, it doesn't matter. I'm looking for bodies, right? And it would make sense because if you would say that's the zone, well, you got an hourly close below it, right? So like this isn't demand, this is your demand zone. This is this is the zone that's going to hold price up. Basically, this is where buyers stepped in, the lowest point for this time period. This is where buyers stepped in, obviously gapped up next day, and it proceeded to do all this. So when if we push down, you're going to want to watch 129.37 to 129.26, and then we can get a signal underneath that. Obviously there's a regular white OG zone here, whatever. This daily, right, I think we talked about this. This is what we talked about this morning with Apple. This is daily demand from way back here, right? Back in 2021. again, it's off of that. It held here in June of this year when we had our lows. And then what happened here is that we finally, it held, it held on this candle. Basically, this candle held, I tested it perfectly right down to support, bounced back up. Even this candle wicked way down below, but came back up and closed here. And it wasn't until we gapped down, we gapped down into it that, we got this push up, it got sold into and it dropped, right? So we went over this morning, pre-market before it opened up. And the thing is the reason I keep this daily zone up is because it held, like you can see how we never actually got even though we opened up here, we never got a bullish close, right? We never got a candle to close because again, this is the opening price. So we never got a close above this daily, this zone as a retest. Now we did today, right? We finally got it. We opened up here, we pushed all the way up into this daily supply up here and pulled all the way back down and even tested this old demand here that's just acting as a regular zone almost now. At this point, I'm going to get rid of it because we did get a close above. At this point, I'm more interested in the more current price action, but it is very interesting. I mean, you want to have these levels on your charts, and the daily ones, because they're so, that's why you see me leave them on for a little bit longer, because we see interaction on the daily zones more so than you would, with like an hourly or a 4 hour. So at this point, I'm going to cut it. But even Friday, man, we pushed up and we pushed up Friday, got above, but came right back down. And we ended up closing just under the zone again. So it's like, you could look at this as a retest, right? We got the first candle, we got the first daily close underneath and we retested it, held underneath, retested it, held inside, whatever, but still underneath the top of the zone. Then we opened here, but we closed way down here. So obviously that held. Then we had these days where, obviously we didn't get back up to it. And then Friday of last week, we pushed all the way up and we ended up closing underneath it again. Now, you could debate whether that signal is legit or not. But, at that point in time this morning, it's like, okay, I knew we were going to gap up and open up like higher. But if we ended up close, let's say we gapped up here, pushed up, and let's say we did close down below it again, I would still leave this on my chart. Just because you can kind of get an idea, like you got to get a close above. Doesn't have to be a bullish candle, but we need a daily close above that to say, okay, that retest is out. Now I will say this, you could leave that on your chart, but I will say this, like we have the regular white zone here. I'm just going to be watching that. So far this daily supply is held beautifully. I think we're going to see more downside. So I don't know. I know maybe that ran on a little bit more of a rant than what was originally talked about, but hopefully that makes sense.
I have a question about a chart.
Yeah.
Let's look at Microsoft on the 1 hour.
Right. What are you looking for?
Okay, Microsoft on the 1 hour. Make sure I have the date right. On January 6th, they have two parabolic candles, one green one and one red one. So if I'm doing a 1 hour zone, that red candle would be the zone, correct?
You're talking about this
Those
big
two right
candle
there,
here,
yep.
right? Yeah, so that would be your demand unless it hits something back here, but I don't think it does. So yeah, that's the demand zone. That's the hourly demand.
Okay, so even though it's as big as it is, it could be.
Yeah, you're still going to call it demand, right? That's still your demand zone. And you can even see, it'll be interesting to see what happens when it gets down to it. But yeah, I would
So just to confirm, it's the
updated.
red candle, it's the bearish candle, not the bullish candle, correct?
Yeah, no, yeah. Demand zones are always going to be off of a red candle. Yep.
Yeah.
And supply zones are always going to be off of a green candle.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, look, this is a great example right here of where the signals don't I mean, they work out, they do work out, but something changed up here, right? So like we got this candle here, this bullish candle, we pushed up and we got the close above the hourly supply, right? Above the resistance. So that gives us a bullish, a bullish position. We even got the retest, right? You guys can see that here. what we're looking at is this blue zone here, right? These blue lines. We got the close here, hourly close. We even got a bit of a retest. It didn't come all the way back down, but pretty damn close. And then we pushed up. And again, this did play out as the signal is saying, basically, right? It means that since we got a bullish close here above the supply, the next candle should be bullish, right? And it did close bullish. It's just immediately afterwards, right? The next candle fucking fell apart and came right back down in. So this is a bit of a bull trap, you'd call it. On the 1 hour. And I don't even think there's anything on the I mean, there's really nothing nothing on the other time frames. The only thing you could say here is from a daily perspective. But I mean, even that is just there's not a lot happening here. It's very sketchy. So
something cool that I learned, and I forgot the professor's name, but it was like 4 days of videos that I watched, is that when you cannot find a zone, if there's like parabolic candles going up or going down, you can always take one of the parabolic candles and go directly in the middle. On that Microsoft, that's where that second green candle that closed above the hourly zone, that's exactly where it closed in the middle of a red parabolic candle. I think it was on the 5th.
so that's a
Fourth.
yeah, that's because of the Fibonacci, right? So are you talking about on a daily candle or an hourly candle?
Hourly.
So what candle are you talking about? This parabolic one here? Are you talking about up here, this one?
Yeah, it's
where this
the
drop
last
happens.
parabolic candle before the consolidation on the 4th.
So you're talking about this here.
That candle right there. Yep.
Yeah. So again, if you snapped a and you could even maybe bring it up, I guess you could say top to bottom. It does, the 0.5 is the halfway mark, and that's for sure true. That works for any candle. The halfway mark is a spot of resistance, right? The thing I would be careful with here is that it's hard to say which candle it's going to be, except this does stand out. So you could say that, right?
Yeah.
You could say, hey, there's definitely like watch when you have this big of a drop, watch where that halfway point is. But yeah, that's definitely a thing.
So that's something that I don't ever catch beforehand. It's when I'm looking back at the charts, it's like, oh, well, yeah, that's why it did that. It was the halfway point. I never can seem to catch it beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Did
There's
you look at
definitely
the 30-minute chart on that one? It might work on 30-minute smaller time frame.
Yeah, no, that's why I was looking at the 5-minute, but yeah, there's nothing there. Nothing that stands out, right? As far as like, retracement back to the zone, right?
Right.
And I gotta be honest, it's kind of why I watch multiple things, right? Like if you look at what was happening today with Microsoft, but if you go, let's say, let's do Apple too, right? Apple was much, if you look at Apple, it hit this daily supply, right? When I see this hit daily supply, and then I look up here at SPX and I see it hits a zone. Oh, that's something too. I don't think these zones are on. I don't think I have the fucking zones on. Yeah, there we go. All right. So even that, I think, moved outside of a zone, or it was in the middle. Yeah, it was in the middle. So there's a lot going on here, obviously, but actually we can get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And that. Oops, not that. This one. All right, so we got rid of the pink stuff. Yeah, so even with the regular zones, I didn't have anything here. But if you look at if I look at these other tickers, like a lot of things were happening, right? When we topped out there, SPX went right up to this zone here. Apple was a big one. It went right to that daily supply, and and couldn't get an hourly close inside of it. Like that stood out pretty drastic. And that's why I watch this 8-chart layout. That's why I always have it up, I guess. But yeah, 100%. Like look at you can always do the Fibonacci retracement. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. You just grab, and again, you can do open to close. Like if you do open to close, it's still, It's within the 618, right? Well, actually it's the 0.5. You did break above it, but you never got to close above it. Sorry, my phone's ringing, or my iPad is actually ringing. I don't know what the fuck that is. Anyways, yeah, that's but the halfway point is definitely something, and that's actually the guy that turned me on to this to the supply and demand zones. You know, with using like looking at specific candles and looking at the price action. He talks about it quite a bit because in Forex and crypto, you know, that's especially when things are going fucking parabolic and there's nothing around. You know, the halfway point, normally we would look at the daily candles and grab the halfway point on the daily candle. So let's look at that real quick. Let's do that. Let's just check it out for shits and giggles. This probably isn't going to be as great, but all right. Yeah. So that's your daily candle there. Let's find out. Let's see where that is. Maybe it's a 618 retracement or something. Let's see if that goes like that.
What is a 618 retracement?
That's the Fibonacci retracements, right? So these are.
Okay, I know what those are. That was one of the first ways I learned how to take entries and exits. That was before you taught me zones, and that's how I was figuring out levels. So yeah, I know how to use those. I just never heard of it as a 618 retracement.
Well, that's the main. So like the 0.618, right, is I mean that's normally the main level. When the way I was taught Fibonacci's and the way that I mean, it's definitely not just me, but what you're looking for is a retracement back to normally you see a retracement back to where the 618 gets you break the 618, right? So like in this case, because our retracement is a bullish move, we see a bullish move up above, but you don't get a close, right? You don't get you close back inside of it. And what that does, once you get that close, that tells you that like it's probably a 618 retracement, and you have a probability that price, you know, has retraced as far as it's going to go, and then it'll continue on in the direction that it originally went. So, you know, you see that on the bigger time frames. This works out perfectly, and this is how I've always been trained to use this. If you're looking at just a candle, is look at the daily candle from open to close, right? So that's what I just did here. Is you look at this daily candle, you know, grab it open to close, and then look on the smaller time frames. And I mean, you can see it's exactly what pulled off here. So it's definitely good to point that out. I don't always do that because most of the time I can get a signal from somewhere, you know, something else makes sense. But again, it's not a bad idea. It's definitely something that I subscribe to. Because then what did we do here, right? We got all this price action up, and as soon as we got a 5-minute candle, you know, we got price to move through, you know, above that 618 level, which was 231.06. You can see it in yellow here. Right, we pulled through it, but then we closed back down below. We closed all the way down here, and then price couldn't get back up above it. So like that's normally a decent signal. It says, hey, drop it, right? And then if you line that up, I mean, obviously that's the thing. Like you line that up with the fact that Apple hit daily supply, you have SPX in the zone, and even the price action midday just looked. I mean, if we look at SPX, like this to me, just it felt like it was running out of steam, right? Like we got this push up, we came back down. And here's the thing, guys. This is what I wanted to show you guys. Let's just play with the 5-minute zones for a minute. Let's do that. We'll change this. Let's just imagine the price is up here. Let's get rid of that. We know we have that. No, that's not it. That would be the demand. Right. So let's say we know we have that. So yeah, anyways, let's do something real quick, if you don't mind. So let's say price is here, right? All right, so this is 5-minute candles. We know we have, if we're looking, if we're setting our candles up, we know we're coming into the zone up here, right? So we're looking for our, let's say we're just looking for downside support, or at least where to get our signals from, right? So you have your 5-minute demand here. Again, you're looking for a bear, you're looking for a bearish candle that's under price, that's consecutively back in time, that gives you, where this closes at, doesn't close inside, it doesn't wick down. It's really the wick doesn't wick into the close of another bearish candle, right? So this candle stands out. So we snap a line. And then we look from the bottom of that price, we look over, and now we're looking down, right? And we come to this candle. And again, this can be tricky, but what we're looking at is where does this candle close? Well, two things, right? Number one is where does it wick to? There's nothing that it wicks into, right? So we know that it's valid. And then what is the close? Like we want the lowest close out of this bunch, right? So if we move this candle to here, if we said, hey, it's this candle, well, it's not, right? Because this 5-minute candle closed below it. And again, this is, I think we even talked about this in this was the candle that closed below the 5-minute support, but it closed above the 9 EMA. Remember, if you guys were in the stream, I know you remember this because this was one of the things that happened that kind of, was something that we were watching because it was like I wanted to get short. I think I did get short and then ended up stopping out of those because it did close above the 9 EMA. So that's something to watch. One of the reasons I have this, this one indicator, but anyway, so that's your demand, right? And then obviously if you go lower, we can find more down here. You can see I have a dotted line here on this one. And again, it's because I would say that this 5-minute candle pretty much touches, this demand zone down here. But again, I want to at least know like where this level's at. So this one can disappear. That's no longer needed. Okay, so let's just say though, right? Now we have especially these two, and we're looking for a signal, right? So yeah, that's the next candle, right? So that's the next one, right? So what we're looking for, so now we see this candle coming down, right? And again, you're not getting any signal off of this. It's just now we're coming down into the demand. So we want to see now that we've tested this demand zone. All right, so let's put the let's make this pink so it stands out. All right, so that's this pink area, right? This pink box is our demand zone. So now that we've tested it, we want to see either a candle close back above it, right? To get a possible bear or bullish signal. And we want to see it close below it so we can get a bearish signal. Okay. Any closes that happen inside of it are like we don't have a clear signal from. We can observe the price action and see what it looks like. So all right, so now we have this, right? So now we've gotten another close down underneath. The one thing to keep in mind here is that it's also breaking out back below the zone. That's why I have these white zones as well. Obviously, they matter. So, and here we have again, right? Okay, so that's how that candle opened. And look where it went. This is why these zones work. This is your demand zone, right? This is your demand level. This is your support level. But together they make up the demand zone on the 5 minutes. So you get it closed inside. Again, that's not bullish or bearish. Well, it's not bearish, but it's not bullish either, right? We need to get a 5-minute close back above. And where does this, even when you get the bulls to really step in and try to push this up, it closes right at that demand level, that 39.45 spot 8. And it doesn't give you a bullish signal, which is really interesting. We see that all the time. So now this one comes up. Okay, now we get a bearish or bullish signal, right? And if you had played this, right, you could have gotten the retest and the push up, right? And if all you're doing, if you're scalping, right, you can say that that's your 5-minute resistance. I mean, this isn't technically, technically this could be supply, but now your supply zone is so freaking close. But the thing is, when you have a top like this, that's your 5-minute resistance, right? It still counts as resistance. It's still a level to be watching. Like you need a price to kind of close above to continue up. You want to kind of know where this is at. This should be your target. So this is a great entry here if you wanted to be bullish today. And again, it would have been a $5 move. Once we got the close above here, right? We got the retest. So we would grab it here. My retest would be right on that pink line, or at least very close. And then profit target would be right here. So, that's a $4 move on SPX. Again, nothing, if you had in the money calls, they still made some money, right? Obviously, it's not the crazy bangers that we've had, but it's still a good move. And that signal is valid, I guess is my point. You've tested demand. You finally get a bullish close above on a 5-minute closing basis. You get the retest of that demand level, right? And now you got to pop off. Okay, so now that play, and again, I would look for continuation to the upside, but at least at this point, this should be your initial target, or at least where you're setting your mental stop. So now the next one, right, comes right back down, bounces. You're still finding some demand here. And this is kind of what I was looking at through, intraday here. I wasn't on the charts the whole time, but I was watching. I was in and out from the room. And when you see something like this, like, yeah, we get the close above and then it drops and we're right back down like below this resistance, right? And now we're back down inside the zone. But it's funny that we bounce basically right off the white zone here, the white level. So we are still kind of, in this no man's land. Now we're starting to see some push down, right? Candles pulled back up. That's where it closed at. All right, that's the next candle. Next candle. Now this is your bearish signal. If you didn't grab all of this, right? And honestly, there wasn't a huge signal here. You would have just had to say, oh, it might be a double top. I'm going to grab shorts. That's a risk you can take, but you're not getting a clear signal from it. Now we have a bearish close. What we're looking for is a retest of this old demand zone to act as resistance, right? Normally I get in a little bit early and I leave room because I know that it can retrace back up further. Let's see what it looks like. So boom, here's your retest, right? But that would have been a fill at some point. All right, it's pushing back up, but it is holding. And again, if this is where, this is still all valid for a retest. You can retest all the way back up to here. All right. And then obviously we got the close below again. And that's the reason we can anticipate this is because of this close right here. Because we close below it, it's not always guaranteed, but there's a good, we know that we're looking for a retest and then we're going to look for more downside. And then obviously anybody that's, was trading today knows that it did this shit. So again, and you can use the top of the zone as your stop. You could use that. I mean, if you waited for this, honestly, normally I would be in sooner than this here. I wouldn't have waited till right up here. But then again, if you're watching the options chain, you can get better fills than a lot of people. You can normally see what you're looking at the premium chart. So we could look at that real quick too, actually. I know it's getting late, but let's just look at this real quick. Let's say the 3,900 puts. All right, what are we at there? We're at, we'd want the 39.25s. I think that's what we were doing at this point. Yeah. Where can I move this? So let's just put this over here. Maybe that'll be out of the way. All right. So just as a time reference, right? We are at, let's just say here, right? We're at 12:15. So that's going to be this candle right here. So you can see how we popped up. Okay. This is a 5-minute chart, but it's this candle right here, right? So when I'm doing these charts, I have these zones on it, right? I actually have 5-minute supplies. You can see how we've kind of popped up into it. We got that bearish signal though on the charts. Okay. That would be right here. If you were looking for an entry, and again, maybe I can, how can I do this? Shit, hold on a second. Yeah, maybe I can do this right here. Okay. Where are we? 12:15, right here. So you have this 5-minute supply, right? I do this on the charts. This one's cleared now, obviously, but you get this push up into it. So I know that, okay, it's kind of making sense. Like we're starting to get a push into this area. Makes sense because we got the close down here on the 12:15 candle. Now we're looking for the retest. You come back down, you could either grab a fill. I mean, if you know that closing price, the price of this contract right now is $3.30, right? At the close of this, basically, just to say 330. This is what I'm talking about. You look down here and you say, okay, let's say this candle, this is going to be technically your demand, you could say on this, but you're just looking for levels like where would it pull back to? You could say 207, let's say $2. So maybe you have a fill at $2 and you say 220, right? Obviously you would have filled the 220. That's if you trust this, right? Now you're getting these, let's say you wanted to wait again, right? Now you have, this is the 1230 candle. This is your 1230 candle. Now you got another close underneath, right? Underneath your zone. This definitely looks bearish, and you're back up inside of it here. Even if you grabbed it here, let's say at $3, right? Because that's what it pulled back to, was $3 on this little candle. You could play this on this move, because now you have a second, and this is after waiting for this close. You grab these at say $3 or even $3.10, right? You could play this all the way up to $5.10, right? That's a $2 move on a $3, you could just say a $2 move on a $3 contract. I mean, that's that's what, 60%, right? That's what we're looking for with this, right? That's why I watch the contract price. That's why I watch the charts here. Just simple shit like this, right? I mean, that move alone, if you anticipated it and you were aware, of what the price action was, you were looking for downside, which I mean, I'm personally normally am. I mean, you could buy, let's say I don't know how big your account is, but these cost you basically $300 a piece, right? Manage your risk on it appropriately. If for some reason it pulls back up, you can say, okay, maybe it'll drop to 250, right? Maybe even to $2. I'm not saying you should take a $3 to $2 hit, but like you can at least look at this chart and say, okay, look, if it gets back under 275, then something has changed, right? And it never does, because this stays, this never retraces again. So it's just, you got to get into your own risk appetite. Now, if you held this, right, you get this push up, let's say you closed at 510, right? And you get this pullback back down into your, and again, this is your what? This was your old supply zone, now acting as demand, right? Acting as support. You get a pullback to this, you buy in again at $3, right? It's where you bought in back here, you buy in again at $3. Boom, get a push up. Maybe this time you push it to, probably 510 or 550 is what I would do again, right? And then what happens? It pulls back again, because this is the contract. This here, right? Let's do this. Let's just move this out a little bit more. Where are we at now? We're at 1. Are we at 1 p.m.? Yeah, 1 p.m. So the beauty of this, right, is that because you get this bounce here, again, this isn't going back to the old demand, but on your contract, it's pulling back beautifully, right? Right back to that $3 mark. And you could have grabbed in every single time, right? And you always leave a runner or two, right? Add back onto it if you can afford that. Or if you think, hey, this is really going to drop, you might buy in at that $3 and just, let go. Let's say you buy 4 contracts, you let go of 2 or 3 of them up here, and then you're just holding them. And you're like, okay, if it breaks below 275, or let's say 250 was our mark, then I cut the other 1 or 2. And it never does, right? And what does it do? It runs all the way up to fucking, $15. So let's say you even took it to 13, now you've taken a trade that let's say you even have 1 contract left. You went from what? You had 3 contracts that you bought and sold, you made $2 on, so that's $600, right? And then that last one you bought at $3. Let's say you sold it at let's say you sold it at 12, right? Just because that's a huge push up. Let's say you sold it at 12. Now you made another 900 on that contract. So you've now made $1,500 in the day just by playing this one move, waiting patiently for, a very nice break, and playing the charts accordingly here. Having this supply zone, knowing on the 5-minute candles and seeing that it popped up, it retested, it held, it retested, it held. Because again, this is acting, the supply is acting as demand now. Technically, there is demand down here, but we're not worried about that on the contract chart. You just want to find, you want to find an area that makes sense to you. This bounced and held, you could have made out, right? Now, obviously, if you held it throughout the day, this thing went to the moon, but I would say I would only do that if you can buy like 10 contracts, or if you're on a margin account. Again, that's not what this conversation is really about. It's more about just getting the entry. So, and that's what happened, right? It came down. Now we're waiting for this demand zone, right? Let's see what happens here at this demand zone. You get all this chop. This chop can fuck you up if you're not aware of what's happening here. There's consolidation here, right? There's probably an hourly. Oh no, we're way past it. Sorry. Anyways, there's no hourly zone here, but I bet there's a 30-minute, right? Yeah. So I don't know. This is showing up because of the way this replay does it. So I apologize for that. But again, you could play your 30-minute zone here, bro, all day long. You could buy bullish off of this 30-minute zone. When this thing came down and bounced here and played it all the way up, you still would have gotten what, a $4 or $5 move on it. The thing is though, right? We know that I don't like playing. I'd rather play the puts, but anyways, you guys stop me if none of this is making sense. But and here's a grand example of when you don't get the retest, right? We get this blast through. If you were waiting for the retest of the zone, you just don't get it, and sometimes that happens, right? And that may happen again. This is obviously midday. There's more of a move, but if you don't get the retest and you don't get the entry, just wait for the next one, right? Let's see, what time are we at? 2 o'clock. See how we did push back up pretty close here. Again, there's a lot of money to be made in between here, but if you're not looking at a contract specifically, you may not find the entries, right? So that's where I like trading like that 3,900, that 3,925. Then obviously it continued to play out. And we got the big drop. So yeah, this hourly level here that we had obviously needs to go now. I just want to put it into perspective for everybody. But this right here, this was our close, right? This was our power hour. You get this 5-minute close below, and it's also the hourly. This is just to go back to what we were talking about, right? You get the 5-minute close below. Okay, so even if you're just trading the 5-minute, there's an hourly demand here, and because this is the 2:55 p.m. candle. So when this candle closes, it's now 3 o'clock. So that hourly candle just closed underneath that hourly demand as well. But if you're trading on the 5-minute, you're just this 5-minute demand's here. You're just looking for a retest of somewhere in this area, right? You're not necessarily waiting for a retest all the way back up to here, because you got the 5-minute signal too. So that's why I use both of them, just to reiterate what we were talking about before, since it's playing out again, and it played out perfectly, right? Like we had a great move. So, and obviously it just dropped hard, but I would say, guys, until something changes in the Fed, which I don't expect it to change, don't get super bullish. Like it's happened. I know it happens to folks in here. I know, good friends it happens to, people that I talk to on Twitter a lot. I know, like, you don't want to be overly bearish, but when you see, if you really look at what we've done, we've had on a daily basis, like we've had consolidation and the pop up. So, a rip all the way up to here, like to short it up here makes a lot of sense. Nothing's changed. Like it's not like we haven't had some massive leg down. It looks rough to us because we were up here. But I mean, and again, data is going to move us. Look what we did. We had data, right? That moved us up. That was this November, right? Yeah. Moved us up. We chopped around. We had Powell or something there, and it brought us right back down. We had all this shit. And then data finally brought us down again. And we've consolidated for a month now, month and a half, something like that. And now we're going to have data drop us back down again, or push us up. We don't know, but I'd be really surprised if it, pushed us up. So anyways, anything else you guys want to touch on? I think I'm running out of voice.
I think that pretty much explained everything. And I thought I was pretty good at what I did, but when you take 2 weeks off, you got to learn everything over again.
Oh yeah, no, well, it sounds like you're taking the right trades and shit,
Yeah, I am. We talked about that earlier today. I'm being patient. I'm waiting for the right entry. I haven't had to stop out with anything yet, but I'm also
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
also playing Tesla, which I know it has a direction on most days. Now I know that I paid for that year membership of what do you call it?
The futures, yeah.
The futures. It's
You'll
not that I
get your
didn't
use out of
love the
that, though.
futures, but I seem to be making a lot more money without losing playing options right now.
Yeah, listen, right now is a beautiful, I mean, the last 2 weeks, right? Really, last week was so beautiful. Like it played the zones. I was talking to Phil about this. I mean, the zones were spot on. The supply and demand zones were just fire. They were fire. They were just working over and over and over. And it's just that's why there were such phenomenal trades. And I mean, obviously previous weeks they've done well too, but I mean, it's just spot on. So when the charts are giving us like a bone right now, they're throwing us a bone, fucking eat it, right? Like take it and run with it.
Yeah.
The thing is, it'll change again, right? Like it'll probably change again to where maybe we're choppy, maybe we're just not getting clear signals. And if that's the case, you can go back and play futures with a little bit tighter. I mean, I would just stick with what works, but I would say this, like that buying that year's worth of commissions, like I know it's a good chunk of change, but at the same time, just give it. I
I'm
think,
just
if you
hoping that I
factor in the
haven't
whole year.
wasted. I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
hoping I haven't wasted it.
well, I mean, if you don't ever touch futures again, but I don't see that happening. I mean, look, we're just getting into the first of the year. This is a little bit different market, but I mean, normally after, we get into February and shit gets really slow and just weird and choppy. Like it's just not exciting, right? And it's not just tech too. I mean, it's other sectors. That's
Right.
where futures are going to be huge. Cause I know in past years, a lot of the moves, especially the first few months of the year, February to March have been, this year may be different because we're so data dependent and we're still in limbo, right? But at the end of the day, like futures were moving so much smoother, right?
So for me, the slow time is during the summer. That's where I wind up losing a lot of money because everything is a chop fest. It just kind of sits in limbo. It doesn't have a direction. And that's what happened to me. Not this last summer, the summer before, because this last summer I didn't play very much because I knew it was just going to be a limbo kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know, I don't know what the right I know the summers are technically slow. Well, they haven't been though, is that slow. It depends on what you're playing, but like they haven't been the same way they were, say, 5 years ago.
Mhm.
But I just know like the first few months of the year have been even this last year it was better than the year before, but man, 2021 was rough. If it wasn't for crypto, I would have been in a different, probably not terrible shape. I would have found something, but I ended up scalping crypto quite a bit. And it's kind of what shifted me into the scalping mode through the end, through summer 2021. And then, and obviously things were changing then too in the market, right? Not everything was performing as well. We just came off of a huge high, of course, of money printing. And we didn't really understand what the Fed was going to do. So I don't know. This may not be the same this year around, but I would say this is the other thing you got to pay attention to. Like overnight, like if you look at let's look at SPX on this. So if we just go to, let's say, the hourly, we turn off the weekly here. All right, let's just look at price action period. If you look at, let's just say the last month. So you look at what happens overnight here, right? This is the close here, right? We open, you get into you get a little bit of a push futures wise, right? Here. And then this is 4 a.m. Then you get this push up. Overnight price action has been shit. Even this is pretty shitty, right? This little bit here. I'll try to zoom in for you guys. The thing to keep in mind is that lately, I feel like the last few weeks, futures have not been moving overnight like they were, a month ago, 2 months ago.
I
And
agree.
that's part of the reason that you're just not, like, I'm not trading futures overnight as much. I'm just not getting a huge move. It's not that I'm not trading them at all, but there's not a ton of moves. I mean, even up here, you come up here, get to 4 p.m. and what do? We chop fucking sideways. We get to 4 a.m. right? And we get some movement. Now, and that's fine. You can trade this 4 a.m. This was obviously, this was a big move leading into it. But again, like this is a lot of chop overnight. Even as we got down to let's see, where is it? That's 4 a.m. No, that did drop overnight. This was the middle of December. So let's go to, it's really been like since around Christmas, I feel like we just haven't done, like we haven't had these big moves like what we were used to there back, I mean, a lot of the shit, we had nice moves overnight. So I don't know. That's part of it too. The thing is that will come back around. This isn't going to stay like this forever to where like overnight just doesn't move. And it's not every day, obviously, but I mean, there's definitely some, I don't know, I want to say obvious times, right? Like here, yeah, that's 7 a.m. right? So like this big move up, that didn't happen until 8 a.m. on last Friday, right? Like so I mean, now granted, if you're playing futures, you can catch that in the morning. So I'm not saying you can't trade it, but yeah, if that, what we'll see is that may change, I guess is my point, right? That may end up changing. And to where, you have these nice moves after the market closes going into the evening. And at that point, you'll find yourself trading futures again, maybe, I don't know. It's up, you got to know it yourself or
Right.
so. But anyways, so yeah, that's I don't think, I mean, I would say this, right? I mean, trade the options as long as you can, but your futures count is separate, right? So if you see trades on the futures, I wouldn't hesitate to trade them necessarily, right? Like it's a separate account. You have, like what to look for. So, I mean, do your thing during the day. I'm not saying stay up late, obviously. And I mean, there's a limit, but if you see something happening, after hours or even when in the early morning, if you're up, don't be afraid to play it just because you can still set a trade up in the futures, set your stop and your profit target and just, or even just set a trailing stop and let it rip,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I
I
do.
just haven't seen anything worth taking. I only have $300 in that account and I'm not willing to put in more at the moment because I'm doing really well with the options right now, so it's not something I want to dump a bunch of money into yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally, I mean, it's a decision you got to make for yourself for sure. So it's
Right.
not an issue, it's not a big deal. So, it's something that I'm sure you'll figure it out, like
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you'll find to find out what makes sense, what works and what doesn't. So I would say, all right. So yeah, what else we got? Anything you guys want to deal with? All right, so what we'll do is we'll cut this. I'll try to get the recording out. I'm not sure how long it'll take to buffer, but it'll be out in the morning, if not tonight. And yeah, nice, good job. Thanks for pointing out I know we've talked about the halfway mark. What I would, on these candles, the way that I've always done it, and I'm sure I will continue just to do this, is using the daily candle, right? So it's something, and I use the open to close, and it works out. I always look at for the 618 or the 0.5 retracement. But again, the halfway point is definitely key. You could you could go to the hourly and just stick to those candles. That obviously worked out pretty well too. For the halfway mark, right? It kind of acted the same way as the 618 would. I would say the daily candle's a strong candle though, right? Anytime you look at a daily candle, like that represents all that price for that day. So it's definitely, there's something to like the daily open, the high, low, open, close is, those are key levels. That's what traders started to pay attention to back in the day, right? When there was just numbers on the ticker, coming across, on the trading floor, what they started to do is write down like, hey, they marked down like, this is where, the open, the close, and the high and the low were, right? And that's how you got the candles, that look like, what do they look like? Fucking bars, right? That's how you got these. You know what I mean? Like that was the deal. They knew that you opened here, right? They marked, okay, this is where we opened. The high of the day was up here. So they drew their line from the high to the low. They knew that it opened here and it closed here, right? And that was it. And that was the mark. And then and dude, they didn't even color them, right? The original charts are just black lines on a white chart. It's just, you got to be able to look at where the close was compared to where the open was, and just see where it kind of traced. That's how, that's what they were doing with the daily candles. That's why, these are strong levels, I guess you could say. I know there's a lot of lines going on here, but again, that's why you see people use these candles still. They're just the original, they're better for investors, I guess you could say. I don't know. Not my cup of tea, but when I look at longer term charts though, I do enjoy it sometimes. So going forward, just keep this in mind, guys. This will be our, for Microsoft, our hourly supply is now up around 230. We do have hourly demand here that we did push down to. but it's not the main demand, right? So going into tomorrow, let's see if we have any movement overnight. We may not. It's hard to say, so actually we haven't even touched that yet. It's funny. Anyways. All right, cool. Anything else, you guys? Oh, I will say this real quick for the recording for anybody that's watching it. The Costco trades are coming together pretty nice. We do have a little bit of time on that. Oops, what am I doing? Yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to look at. The daily, we came up, we knew that was daily supply. We also had the zone here that's been here obviously for a while. We got a nice test of that, and we got a daily close back below it. So because what happened on Friday was, we got this big push up and we actually closed just slightly inside of the supply zone. So it's good to see, even though we got this push up and test, like, yeah, grabbing shorts up here would have given you the best entry, but I am happy to see this pull back, and close back below this supply. So what I'm looking for is really a retracement back down, honestly, all the way back down to this, to fill this gap. We'll see what happens. Definitely looking at 270s to take off some profits, but and we'll see the price action intraday going through this week. So, but this looks good. It even closed underneath the hourly demand, right? That's your hourly demand. We got a nice close, and then even the retest and confirmation to the downside. So let's see, maybe we'll open up like down here. That would be nice. We could see some pretty crazy movement. Real quick too, the data. Let's talk about that real quick. Actually, we can just look right at this. All right, so this is our data for the week, right? Monday was today. We didn't have much. We had a couple bond, things going on Tuesday. Still not a ton of stuff, right? We do have this economic optimism at 10 a.m. There's wholesale inventories at 10 a.m. There's the red book, but I don't, at 8:55 a.m. I just don't, I don't remember seeing a lot happen with the red book. And then getting into Wednesday, excuse me, we'll get a bunch of mortgage shit, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Tuesday. Yeah. Tuesday we have Powell, I thought. Why is he not on here? Is this right? Wait a minute. Yeah, it did have Powell on here.
I have Powell on there.
Yeah, I do too. I even posted Powell on here.
At
That's
8
fucked up. It
a.m.
moved it
tomorrow.
At what?
At 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, 9 a.m.
Well,
Eastern.
9 a.m. Eastern. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just not sure. I can't remember what people's time zones are, but 9 a.m. Eastern or 8 a.m. Central. Yeah, I even have it on. This is what I posted in the Discord.
Tomorrow's the
It's right
10th.
there. This is the same fucking. That's really weird that it's off the calendar now. That's so strange.
Is it off of your trading view calendar?
No, I don't know.
Oh, you're not looking at that. Okay.
No, I use this, but this is the same thing. This calendar here is the same thing that I posted. I posted it from mobile, but it had Fed, it had this 9 a.m. US Fed Chair Powell speech, right? And now, this updates. Maybe I should update it again just to see, but right, Tuesday. Oh no, here it is. Wow, that's weird. Okay, whatever the case, that's fucking weird. So yeah, 9 a.m. Powell is coming on tomorrow, so that'll be interesting to see. As far as what he's talking about, I don't know. See, all this does is it brings it to the federal funds rate, and doesn't really tell me what he's speaking about. So
it doesn't tell me either. So what I'm thinking is it's going to be like a recap of the minutes.
I don't think. No, that was last. Yeah, we already had the minutes. I think he's speaking at something, isn't he?
I don't know. I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah, he's got to be speaking. Normally, they're speaking at, they're speaking like at an event or something like that. Because this isn't really anything. Now, I'm sure he'll touch. I don't know for sure. So be worth finding out. We'll see at 9 a.m. What it's about, and I don't know how long the speech is, but yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I could see. I could see Powell coming out. This is not what I'm anticipating, but again, it's good to know like the opposite of what I expect to happen. But I could see him coming out being, and talking something a little dovish. Every time he's come out that it hasn't been like an official meeting, he's come off as like they interpret him as dovish. And then of course he slams it back down. But he could come off and we could end up seeing some upside, or at least some upside chop.
He is going
and
to be
then-
in Sweden,
Yeah, okay.
and he's talking about the central bank independence.
Okay.
I don't
So,
know
yeah.
what that is.
It's gonna, well, I don't know, but I'm sure
I
they're
don't
gonna be
think that
touching
might
on like
have much
crypto
to
and
do with us, right?
no, but things that he says in regards like to, I mean, the thing is the whole world's watching him, right? So if he, anything that he mentions about policy, because especially overseas, like what the Fed does here in the US is pivotal to what happens to, these other countries, even like, not even just third world countries, right? Like Europe, fucking, different parts of Europe, in the EU and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
I think people will be watching. It may be a nothing burger. It's hard to say. But I could hear him. I could see him coming off saying, mentioning something. It depends on what the questions are that are given to him. But if he comes out, if this is at all dovish, it would make me think that we get a little bit of an upside push or relief, not something crazy. But then going into Thursday, CPI will probably slam us down. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the previous was 7.1. They're forecasting 6.7, right? I think that's the, let's see. I want to say the forecast is what they're expecting, but I'm gonna have to double check that. I don't know. I just could see that coming in a little bit higher and fucking crushing us. So, but we'll find out on Thursday, right? It's gonna be it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good week. And then Friday, we got a whole bunch of shit too. So it's going to be a good end to the week. The only thing on Friday, guys, you're going to have to keep in mind is I got to take my daughter in to visit. So I may be around in the morning. I think she goes in at like 10 or 10:30. So I'll probably open up Zoom, chat a little bit, maybe watch the exact open. And then depending on when I have to take her in, I'll bounce and then I'll be back. So I may miss some of this stuff. But anyways,
We'll let you know what happens.
yeah, for sure. And it's funny, I don't go with her, although I think I'll wait with her, or I'll wait in like there's rooms in between, or there's like a viewing room in between two classrooms, right? So every two classrooms has like a center viewing room. So anyways, I don't know if I'll be in there or not. She's an infant, obviously, so
Well, good luck.
it's a little bit different. Yeah, no, well, that's Friday, so it'll be fine. We'll figure it out when it gets there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool, guys. Have a good night. We'll cut it off and we'll be
All
good
right.
to go, right?
Talk to y'all
Thanks,
tomorrow.
Raiders. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys. And we'll and definitely, as far as the practice goes, we're definitely going to have some very specific practice stuff that is going to kick off. I know I keep saying it each week. I'm literally just waiting for like my kid to be in school, myself to be in the office. There's a lot of things that I've just been doing in the background, trying to get that shit ready. So I haven't, I want to, but the idea is to put out these charts. You guys can practice them. We can have, even if it's just meetups, you guys can meet up together. Exactly what AP was saying. Use the trading pit, right? You can share your screens, you can chat, whatever, right? So anyways, look forward to that. That'll be coming here this week. All right.
Cool,
Have a
man.
good night,
Thanks.
guys. See ya.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good night, brother.
Good night.